Paul and Justin, it's great to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
Yeah, glad to be here.
I'm doing well. Yeah, we're well. I mean, this is kind of a weird thing. You know, Justin and I normally do the Access Limits podcast. Now we're on your podcast, just kind of rambling on. So it's going to be fun.
I'm sure it'll be an interesting dynamic having two guests at the same time, right, Adam?
Yeah. So it's a nice change, and I appreciate you guys coming on because I was on your show last time as well. Which I really enjoyed, the Actions and Limits podcast. And I just want to kind of start by kind of how you guys kind of got into this, and how you guys kind of came together and kind of formed your podcast.
Justin, you want to take that or?
Sure. I kind of remember how it went down. I know Paul and I were both separately on our paths becoming coaches or consultants. I don't think we had really had a conversation about it, but I had reached out to Paul when I came across the idea of starting a podcast. I was like, hey man, let's do a podcast. And Paul was like, sure. He jumped on it immediately. Funny story for us, we grew up together, we're cousins, and we laugh about it now. When we were kids, we did like little radio shows that no one else listens to but us. But we recorded different radio shows, and then we just play them back and listen and laugh. And so it's funny how things like that come full circle, man.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I agree with what he said. Yeah, we're going through our paths and starting a new business. Both of us, for different reasons, we wanted to start something like this, and we talked about it a little bit, but not to that high level of what each other was doing. And then when Justin approached me to do the podcast, I'm thinking this is a perfect marketing opportunity, and we'll be able to talk to great people like you, Adam, and just get our word across. And more importantly, I have so much fun doing it. I really enjoy it. When I'm in the podcast doing it with Justin, I love talking with people and being serious when we have to be serious, joking around, and just having a good time.
A lot of great conversations. We've had a lot of great conversations, whether it's just me and Paul bouncing off of each other or the amazing guests we've had over the last year and a half. So it's been great.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome what you guys do, and it's pretty amazing, isn't it? How that process of how you kind of learn new things, about yourself and about other people, for having these conversations with them, and the kind of opportunities that kind of arise, from that, and you're providing value to people through what you're doing as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, that's the name of the game, right? Value. Why are you listening to the Actions Limits podcast? I think about that all the time. So, there's times where we want to be informative, but sometimes we want to be entertaining. So, Justin's very, very informative, very informative. And sometimes I have to take it back a second. What's up?
So you're saying I'm not entertaining?
You are entertaining. You definitely are entertaining. But when you go down that rabbit hole, sometimes I got to pull you back a little bit. Hang on a second, because I get him on a topic, and boy, man, once that hits, I can see in his eyes he loves the topic, and he goes right at it. And I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute, let's back it up a little bit. Let's take the truck back a bit.
It is funny, and I know what Paul's talking about, because I've had some of my friends that listen to the podcast. And Paul's right. If you get me on a certain topic, talking about the science behind communication and emotions or something along those lines, what I've heard from some of my friends is they're like, I'm not quite sure what Justin's talking about. And then Paul will ask a question about it. It's like, oh, good. Paul asked a question to kind of put it in layman's terms. What is he talking about, and kind of breaks it down. So we definitely play off of each other like that. So no, I definitely, just playing with Paul, but no, I agree with what he's saying there. But I think we have a good flow off of each other, bouncing back and forth on the show. So
yeah, no, I think that's great, and and I love that about you guys as well, and that it's that kind of balance, isn't it? And to have that kind of serious side, when you're talking about something and there's that kind of jokey side and that kind of like that kind of balance, between it.
Yeah, we want to give you candy with the medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
So it doesn't taste as bad,
Yeah. That's it. And would you say like you kind of like learned a lot, like last year through, doing the podcast? Was there any things that you kind of didn't really expect, happening?
I mean, the pandemic obviously was something that kind of changed things for us. But I mean, we did everything through Zoom anyway. I mean, Justin's in Texas and I'm in California, so we had to do it through Zoom anyway. So that the format really didn't change at all. Probably the subject matter definitely changed quite a bit. We probably wouldn't have got the caliber of guests that we got if there was not a pandemic, because people's calendars have opened up. So that was a good thing. So all in all, I think it was a pretty successful season for the Actions Limits podcast.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff I learned was like through the production of the show and learning different ways how to make it better and tweak it along the way. So we kind of just changed some stuff behind the scenes. But yeah, I think as we have gone on, the caliber of guests have gone up. And I think Paul's right that with people's calendars opening up, with a lot of speakers and motivational speakers, that are looking for different avenues to market themselves, are going out to these different podcasts. So yeah, I think we had some pretty amazing guests that maybe we wouldn't have had otherwise for the pandemic happening. So
yeah, no, that's it. And I think like as well, like with podcasting, like I think like you learn a lot, don't you? Personally about like patience and like process and like timekeeping and organizing things. I think that they're some things that I've learned, and that people don't always see that back end of the editing. They don't see all the planning and reaching out to people and breaking it all down. There's like a lot that goes into it, isn't there?
Well, I have to thank Justin, because Justin does take care of most of the post-production stuff. So I have to really thank him for it. There's a lot of stuff that he goes through, I don't. So, he's been a master at it, and it's gotten better and better, graphics and everything he's been doing. So awesome job.
Yeah, and the other side, Paul is great at reaching out to different guests. So, especially right now, I'm really focused on working on my summit coming up. So Paul has taken over with getting guests scheduled and reaching out to people. So even though I'm dealing with the production side, Paul has really, stepped it up with reaching out to guests. So again, just kind of, filling off of each other and covering the bases all the way around.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great, like working together as a team. And I think that's like essential, isn't it? In this kind of game and, in general life, isn't it? Having people you can trust and rely on, to get the job done. And I think like you mentioned like your summit as well. Like, do you want to talk more about that? Like kind of, what you're kind of organizing and doing?
Yeah, so it's a summit focused on helping men develop themselves into the best version they can be. It's based off the principles of my coaching program and focusing on mental toughness, emotional fortitude, and health awareness. Paul's actually going to be one of the speakers at the summit. I'm excited to have him. We've got a lot of great guests. We did move the summit from January into February. It's actually going to be at the end of February now. So February 25th, 6th, and 7th. But we've got people like Tony Blauer, Brent Kokel, Brad Lee, some of the people we've had on the show before, Eric Partaker and Perry Moffmer. But a lot of amazing guests. I'm really excited to share all that content with everybody and all the amazing conversations that we're going to have. So super excited.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I can always, promote that and share that on my side of things as well and put it out there for people, to see as well. And sure. I think it's like you said, those topics are really important, aren't they? And I think like, general like mental health, especially now with kind of everything happening, it's quite a big thing. I think it's, very, very much shone a light on it because, everyone's kind of in this together.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree with that. You know, a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. People with whether it's depression or anxiety with the COVID stuff. But I know Paul deals with a lot of that with his clients as well, and being that motivation for them and being that positive source. So I think both of us are working on it in our own different ways. So it's been great.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, I think as well, we saw because was it Paul mentioned earlier, like goals for this year. Have you guys do you kind of like make resolutions or goals in the new year? Like, do you think that you have to make goals, for the new year ahead? Like, what's your thoughts on that? As like a person.
It's funny, we did a whole episode talking about just that very topic. So, but I think it's always important to have goals. I think it's great, but I don't think that you always have to wait till January 1st to do it. For instance, if you have something you want to do in October, don't wait till January 1st. Start it now. Don't put that pressure on yourself. I think a lot of people put so much pressure on themselves January 1st that I'm going to lose 100 pounds and I'm going to do it by March. And if I don't do it, life is over. It just doesn't work that way. I think that you have to give yourself some self-love with it and have some short-term goals. If you want to lose 100 pounds, that's fine. Great. Do it. But let's start by having a short-term goal by saying, okay, in a week, I want to lose 5 pounds. Oh, I lost the 5 pounds. Pat myself on the back. Okay, let's move it forward. I think that's extremely important because Justin says by February 8th, most people give up their New Year's resolution. I said Valentine's Day. I was a little off, but he had to correct me and say February 8th. So February 8th is when they stop.
Yeah, it was a study I read. They talked about the majority of people do give up on their goals by early February, but it's interesting how people use January 1st as like the marker to start something new or to get back into shape. Just start today. What are you waiting for? And then the issue comes. So February 8th comes, Valentine's Day, whatever day that is that you give up on your New Year's resolution. You go, I messed up. I'll start in 2022. Well, hell, you got 10 more months to go. Why are you quitting with 10 months to go? So you had a bad day. You had a bad week. That doesn't mean give up on your goal of being healthier or starting a business or whatever that is. Why is January 1st a marker? I think it's ridiculous. And for people out there that are using that as a marker, it's like, get it out of your head. So you had a bad day, you had a bad week, start today, fix it today, get back in the saddle. And as the Aerosmith song goes, but it's just
Gene Autry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think like there is that element of kind of like, I think pressure, because I think other people think, oh, well, that person's setting goals, I need to do it as well. And then, this kind of pressure on ourselves. And I think that's something that I've been kind of working with myself as well. Like I've written down lots of tasks and things that I need to do. And then it's like, if I don't get them done, then I feel bad. And it's like, and then I can kind of domino into the next day. And I'm like, oh, have I done that goal yet? No. Oh, that. And I think, like you said, it's okay if you don't get certain things done. There shouldn't be, like you said, this kind of time frame that you probably have to have it done by. Like you said, just do it kind of thing.
Well, and you brought up too, comparing yourself to other people, whether it's their goals or someone else is setting goals. Oh, so I need to do the same thing. Who cares what someone else is doing? Do you want to set a goal? Is that something that's important to you? If so, do it. If not, forget about it. The only person you should be comparing yourself to is you yesterday, you last year. Are you doing better than you were before? Why are you comparing yourself to somebody else? It doesn't help in any aspect.
I was going to say the same exact thing that Justin just said. He just stole my whole thing.
I stole it. How many times have we had this conversation, Paul? We've gone back and forth. Like Paul and I share each other's words. We finish each other's sentences on a regular basis. The
only thing I would add, the only kind of analogy I would add to what Justin just eloquently just said is, you don't know that other person's starting line and you do not know their finishing line because it's different from you. So don't pay attention to that. Go after what you want to go after, and and reach out to that other person. Maybe that person is at a level where you want to be. A lot of times they'll be flattered that you're asking for help. I think it's the worst thing you could do is be jealous and kind of shut that person out. Don't do that. Embrace that. Embrace the fact that they're successful in what you want to go after, and maybe pick their brain with it. Because let me tell you something. When somebody does that for me, I feel so good. I'm like, wow, you really think that I'm at.
It's a cough. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost them for a second there.
Sorry, we cut off there because of the internet. But what was you saying, Paul? Sorry.
I don't know where I left off at. I was going off. It was epic. It was epic.
I'm sure it was an epic. We missed out on it, Paul. We missed out on those nuggets of knowledge.
You was talking about setting goals, I think, and you was talking about setting goals and like doing it for yourself and not comparing yourself, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So like we talked about, Justin just took the words out of my mouth. He eloquently said what I normally would say. But when you look at somebody else, you don't know what their starting line is, and you don't know what their finishing line is. So why compare them to you? Because you just don't know where their race is doing. And if they are, successful, and you want to get to that level, don't be jealous at it. Ask them for help. Because a lot of times they're going to feel good about that. Like when people ask me for help, going, hey, you did that really well. Can you help me? And I feel good about it. And I'd be glad to give back. The worst thing you could do is be jealous of that other person and shut them off, because they could be a tool or resource for you to get to the level where you want to go. So, again, it's about competing with yourself. Like Justin said, competing how good you were yesterday, to be better today, and just constantly move that needle forward. I think that gives you that barometer, a true barometer on what you want to do. And a lot of times when I wake up in the morning, I say to myself, what do I want to do to be productive today? What is it? Do I have a podcast I need to do? How do I need to market my business? How do I need to help myself, physically with going to the gym, mentally, maybe do some meditation? What can I do for myself too?
Yeah, I like that. And I like that you brought up asking other people that are more successful than you. From what I found from working on this summit and talking to people that are out there killing it and have been doing it for years, they are so open to helping out or giving information. Like, I've had some really great conversations with some people, sharing some insight on their business and how they were successful and what they did behind the scenes to get to where they're at now. And so don't be scared. I like that you brought that up, Paul. Don't be scared to ask these people that you look up to or that are out there in a similar field, out there kicking butt. Don't be afraid to ask them. They want to share that information. That's why they became coaches. That's why they became consultants. Yes, they're getting paid the big bucks out there, but if they can share some knowledge, I've found that they're more than willing to do that.
Yeah, I think they're really great points. And I think, like you said, it's kind of abundance, isn't it? I think, what you give out comes back to you. And, if you're giving advice, that's going to, come back if you then kind of need advice and that support. And I think, like, a lot of the times people are scared to ask, or they don't. I mean, I used to do it. Before I did podcasts, before I even did a podcast, I was worried about what people were going to think. And then I remember, reaching out to people, worrying about probably being rejected, I think. And
Sure.
That is okay.
Normal.
Yeah, I think it's okay if you do get rejected. It's kind of like part of the process. It happens. But I think, like you said, ultimately people, kind of, especially now with the pandemic, people, I think it's important, people are honest with themselves, because, everyone's feeling something, and somebody could talk to somebody, and that other person they speak to might be feeling the same as them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, most definitely. For Justin and I, as far as our podcast is concerned, I don't know if we really thought about what if people don't listen? I don't think that was I don't know if that really resonated with us. I mean, obviously we want to grow our audience. I mean, that definitely was top of mind, but I didn't think about like, oh, what if people don't like us? I think I thought that, I don't know. I guess I didn't worry about that. I don't know if you did or not, but
no. And cause I think back to like reaching out to guests, cause for a while it was just you and I, and then we, you know, had a few guests, and then we had more, we got introduced to more people. I don't think I ever had an issue reaching out to somebody being like, hey, come on my podcast. And that carried over into the summit, like asking some big name people to be part of it. It's a normal thing to fear that rejection. We all do it. It's human nature to fear that, because we don't want to feel that negative emotion of you know, disappointment and letdown, because in our minds we build it up. Oh man, if I got this person on the podcast, if I got them on the show, that'd be great. And then they say no, and it's like, oh man, that sucks. We could have had them on there, but oh well, move on, carry on. You can't control that, right? And just move on to the next person and just do what you were going to do anyway.
Yeah, the only person I felt semi-nervous to ask was Daryl Davis, but even then, it wasn't that hard. I mean, I was doing it through an email. Obviously, if I got his phone number, I would have called him. I definitely would have called him over email, but I only had his email, so I had to email it, and I said, you know, what the heck? I mean, the worst he could say is no, right? And, and we got him on. He at the end of the podcast, he said, "I'd love to come back on." I know maybe he was blowing smoke, but you know, I thought that was a win there, right? And we were only supposed to have him for 45 minutes. He was there for an hour and a half.
Yeah, we did have, it was a great conversation. We talked for a long time, but I think Paul has an upper hand here. You know, Paul was in sales for a long time. So Paul likes hearing no. Like it
I don't know if I like hearing no.
Well, but think about it. You know, you understand it. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And most people that have never been in sales don't get that. It's like, hey, if once I get to the ninth no, hell, that next one's going to be a yes. So that's a completely different mindset to approach things with. So I think Paul has an advantage from most people with that aspect. So there is some, you know, mentality behind it and a mindset to not being afraid of the word no.
I think as well, like it builds up resilience in you as a person over time. If you the more no's you get, or you know, like I've applied for a lot of jobs, and I remember like 85% of the jobs I just didn't get. And sometimes I would have to drive a long way to go for an interview or buy a suit. I remember one job I went for an estate agent, like you guys, what do you guys call it? People who sell houses, that kind of thing.
Oh, real estate agent?
Real estate, and I had to buy a suit. I bought a full 3-piece suit, and I had 4 interviews. I didn't get it, and I remember feeling like absolute crap. But I think that if that happens over time, if you get another no, it doesn't have that same effect, if that makes sense. But I don't know if you guys have seen that film based on the call center. It's like a comedy. It's called Sorry to Bother You, I think it is. But you think of people in call centers and they're getting no's all the time. And
yeah, I worked at a call center. I know all about that, man. It's like Justin said, it's a number game. But going back to what you were saying, it's putting yourself in uncomfortable situations so you're comfortable about it. I preach that all the time. I know Justin does too. Is the more times you push yourself, the less nervous you're going to be, because this is old hat for you. This is what you normally do. You have a situation you've never done before. You have a little bit of that tickle in the belly, and you just push through it. And then on the other side of it, whether it's a yes or no, or whatever you're doing, but you face your fears, afterwards, I feel so good about myself. I don't know about you guys, but once I face my fears on something that I'm like, oh, I was a little nervous about, and I jump off the diving board, so to speak, and whether it was successful or not, I still feel good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's coming out the other side, regardless of what the result is. Just conquering that little fear in yourself gives you a little bit of a boost. One thing I'll add in there is that, yes, when you're prepared for the no, when you have mentally prepared yourself for the fear of failure, it lessens, but it never goes away. Regardless of what you're doing out there, there's always that underlying emotion that comes up. I talk about this because Paul and I like to go karaoke. When we're together, we'll go out there and sing. And I've done it for years. I like it. I'm not half bad. I've never been booed off the stage. But the funny thing is like that whenever I get up there to sing that first song, I still feel that nervous energy. And I'm like, oh man, like, how am I do? Like, maybe I should just stay in my seat and not sing. That still comes up, but I still conquer my fear every time. So that's the message for people that are out there waiting for that feeling to go away. It's never going to go away. It'll just lessen over time, or you learn how to cope with it better so you can face your fear and do the things that you want to do, whether it's something simple as doing karaoke, asking a girl on a date, starting a business, whatever aspect that is. Don't wait for that feeling to go away, because those emotions are going to come up regardless of whether you want them to or not.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's a really good point as well. And it's kind of like you said, it's how you kind of use that, isn't it, sometimes? And it's like sometimes I've done podcasts and I feel nervous. And even though I've done a lot of them, I'll have certain guests on sometimes, and I start to feel like I'm going on a roller coaster, but I'm not going on and once I'm overthinking it, but once I'm doing it, I kind of use that energy, it's kind of good in some way, if you can then use that energy to then drive the show, if that makes sense.
Use it to excitement. Take that nervousness to excitement. That's the important thing. And I want to echo what Justin said. That's totally true. I do a lot of podcasts outside of the Actions and Limits just to market my business and what have you. And I'm not saying all of them, but there's some podcasts before I get on, I check out their content and like, oh man, this is a pretty big podcast. I get a little nervy in there. And then, once we get into the throes of it, then I'm like, okay, it's on, baby, let's go. And I think it goes back to the point where Justin was making is, he's still nervous about doing the karaoke, but when he starts hitting that first note for Neil Diamond, now it's go time.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think it's important, as a person, isn't it, to be honest with yourself and kind of what you're feeling, and to accept it. Because I remember when I had anxiety in the past, I would fight those emotions and it would just magnify it. And how you deal with it and just accept it is important. I've spoken to people who've done like public speaking, and they've gone on stage and they've been really nervous, and they've said to the crowd, look, I'm actually feeling a bit nervous today. And it kind of, allows those people to understand, that point of view. I was going to ask something as well. Like, how I was talking about, kind of being a person and mindset and recognizing things in ourselves, why, it kind of makes me wonder, like, why people sometimes don't do that, if that makes sense. Why some people don't kind of think about what they want to do in their life or their goals or kind of what's coming up for them, if that makes sense.
Well, the comfort zone is comfortable for a reason, right? You're comfortable there, right? I think that's the point right there. We just feel good about, let's just stay in our bubble and just keep moving forward in our bubble and not push ourselves. And I think that's the point. I think that you're going to feel, I hate to use this word, but you're going to feel a little bit of pain getting out of that comfort zone, whether it be, a nervous feeling or you working out or whatever that uncomfortableness is to you. You're going to feel something that's not going to be comfortable. And I think that's the point. I think a lot of people don't want to get out of that zone because they've been in it so long. Why leave? It's so comfortable.
Yeah.
I've heard an interesting take on this recently. He said in every decision we make, we choose either comfort or combat. So whether it's getting out of bed in the morning, comfort, do I just want to like roll over and grab my pillow and hit the snooze alarm? Or am I going to put my feet on the ground and go to the gym? And going along with that, the idea is that there's no such thing as stasis. There's no such thing as a decision that will keep you the same. So you are either always improving with the choices you make or always on a decline. Because if you choose not to go to the gym today, you declined a little. If you choose to go to the gym 5 days in a row, 5 days, you incline. So it's every decision we make is based on comfort or combat. Are we going to go to war with our, comfort zone and say, hey, let's do something good. Let's work on something, whether we're going to, work on the business, work out, eat better. So I think it's an interesting idea to think, because people think, oh, if I don't go to the gym, I'm just staying the same. Technically, no, you're actually declining for the day. So there is no such thing as flatlining throughout the day. You're either improving or slowly on a decline. So I thought that was an interesting way to think about all of the decisions we make.
What about a nap? Is a nap improving you or not?
I think that would depend on the context, right? If you had a really tough day and you know that you have some more stuff coming up later in the day, a nap can help make you more productive. But also, if you've done nothing all day long and you're like, I'm already run down, should I go to the gym or should I take a nap? I think in that moment, a nap would be, on the decline, because really go out and move your body. So it's all based on the context, right?
Yeah, no, I think they're really good topics and points. And I mean, I used to work with like Spanish people, and they would have like a siesta, they'd work for a couple of hours and have a break. And I'd be like, I just can't do it. Like,
At 2 p.m.
Yeah. And they'd be cooking at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening and stuff like that. But it's, different culture. But yeah, I think it's important, like you said, to is that the kind of, like you said, that combat or that like comfort. And I mean, I looked at is it an article or video, and they were saying like, your subconscious mind is like programmed in like the first 5 or 6 years of your life or something like that. So do you think? I mean, do you think like a lot of people, the way people behave is down to their surroundings? Do you think?
I think it depends, because the whole nature versus nurture. There's always that conversation, and I can only tell by the look on Paul's face that if you get me down this rabbit hole, I'm gonna talk for a while on this. But there's always that conversation about which one comes first, right? So it is true that there is a lot of stuff. Our values and beliefs are established when we're younger. And that's what makes them so hard to change when you're an adult. If you're already set in your ways, it's very, very difficult to change that. And that's why it's so important. I know Paul and I have talked about this before. As parents, it's so important to help your kids develop healthy skills. And I talk about this, every chance I get. All of these skills that I have, especially with emotional intelligence and communication, I pass on to my daughter. Like, I'm training her to be a badass when she grows up, because she's going to have tools that we never had as kids. I didn't develop some of these tools till I was in my 30s. And it's like, I wish I had this stuff when I was younger. It's not being taught in schools. Our parents aren't teaching it to us. So it's definitely the parents' job to make sure that your kids are well equipped with a lot of these tools.
I'd like to add to that is, I had a client talk about things that happened to her in kindergarten. So most definitely things that happened to you as a young boy or girl, you remember it into adulthood. So to your point, Adam, it's very important that we nurture that time, because that's really when, these kids are sponges and picking up on a lot of other stuff. But I want to add to that, though, is just because you had a hard childhood, that does not have to define your whole life. You can change it. I know it's not easy, but you can do it. And I think that's the powerful thing of it all is yes, I was dealt a bad hand in childhood, but I don't want to have that going forward. And I don't want to have my kids go through that too, breaking that cycle. So that's extremely important to remember as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you both. I think they're really both great points. And I think, like you said, it's important, to bring up your child the best way possible. And like you said, to have that choice to say to yourself, I want this to change, and to make those, actions to change, whatever we probably went through and things like that. I've got a question as well. I've never asked this anybody on my podcast before, but I thought of it today.
I'm nervous now.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing bad. I was thinking, if you could sit around a table and have lunch with somebody, like with people, and it's 3 people, who would you pick if it could be anybody? To have a conversation.
I want to hear Paul's answer.
Are they dead or alive?
They have to be alive.
Okay, so the first person I would say, and Adam, I don't know how much you know about this person. It's baseball. Vin Scully, announcer for 70 years. The guy has a lot of great information. His light, just his poetry when he talks, and not even, I wouldn't even talk baseball with him. I talk about life and just different things that he's dealt with. I mean, the guy was announced when Jackie Robinson was around. So a lot of information that he could give to me. That would be number one. Let's go with 3 people. Jeepers. Normally it's just one. We got that.
It could be 1 or 2.
Let me try to think of one more that I would really want to have a conversation with.
Do 2. That's fine.
Yeah, I would say probably, and I'm sure you would go down the same road here, Adam. I think I would like to have a conversation with someone like Gary Vee, to be honest with you. I think that he has a great perspective on life and about patience. I mean, he really is really helped me on that aspect of things, is patience. Because I'm not a patient person. Like Justin said, I come from a sales background, and sales is about results. And life isn't always that easy. So his message about patience really has paid off for me this year. So I'll go with those 2.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What about you, Justin?
So I like Paul's Gary Vee. I didn't really think about it. I guess I thought about. I kind of went a different route with it, thinking about it. I think Clint Eastwood would be a really great conversation to have, picking his brain. I grew up watching his Westerns, and I just think he would have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Another person I thought of was Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's a guy that kind of, came from nothing, just pulled himself up and, set goals for himself and just achieved anything he wanted to. He was like, this is what I'm going to accomplish and nothing's going to stop me. So that just, resilience, no matter what people were saying about him, because him coming to America and not being able to speak English at first and having to struggle as an actor with a very heavy accent, and even in his first movies, having to be dubbed over in like Conan and in some of the early years. So just a pure resilience and picking his brain. And then on the lighter side, what kind of came to mind was William Shatner. I think that would be an entertaining conversation to have. Again, someone I grew up watching Star Trek, and just how he just seems like the same person in everything that you saw him in. He just seems so just authentic, just kind of like, hey, this is me. This is how it goes.
I've actually met him, and no comment.
Really?
Oh, that makes me sad. You think from the personalities that he puts out on his TV shows and movies that he'd be entertaining. But those were the 3 that came to mind for me. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. I'll say 2 that just came to my mind. I was thinking of like Sylvester Stallone. Very similar to like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, sure. I mean, I'm
those
sure you guys know
movies. Rockies.
Yeah, and the story that he went through, he said he lost his dog, he got rejected from movie companies, and the amount of crap that he had to go through, and what
he started as an adult star. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? You think what he's been through and what he's done. And where he is, and he still looks pretty well. I think from when I last saw him, looks after himself, I think. But I thought of Kevin Hart as well. He's a pretty motivational guy, and people see him. I think, have you seen him on Joe Rogan at all?
Yeah,
no, I didn't see that interview.
Talk about mindset. And he talked about his mother. That made me tear up. So yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't seen that, check that out.
Because he talked about like his life, and the thing is, people see him with lots of money and doing really well now in films, and he like did stand up, and he was I don't know where he practiced his stand up, in the Comedy Store. I don't know, but he like people don't see where he came from, and going on stage, and yeah, I think he'd be quite good to chat to. Can't think of anyone else, but yeah, no, they're really good people to choose.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And as well, like, what time is it? Are you guys okay for time? Yeah, I just thought as well, like kind of like any favorite books that you've read, like a number of favorite books, if you can pick any.
Yeah, Grit by Angela Duckworth is a phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. I don't know if you guys, I know I told Justin about it, but I recommend that book. That's just like almost like my Bible, on when things get tough, just, take it by the bootstraps and keep moving forward. It's not always about it's not always about the talent. It's about the fortitude to keep moving forward. And I mean that in a lot in life, because I feel like it for me, my talent is my grit. I don't think if you ask me to do a task first time, I'll probably be one of the last in it. But if you give me time to grow the skill, give me a month or two, then I'll be one of the top. But yeah, starting out, I'm probably not going to be the greatest, but just give me time and I'll get there.
I love that.
I like that. A couple came to mind for me. The one I just got done reading is called The Rise of Superman. I can't remember the author, but I know it's about flow states and just getting yourself into being like the ultra productive. And another one of my favorite books from the last couple of years has been Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He was a hostage negotiator for the FBI, and he talks about using those tools and techniques in every conversation you have, because he talks about how we're in negotiations probably 5 to 7 times a day, in different aspects that we don't really think about them as being negotiations, but definitely those tactics are amazing. I've been putting them into use since I read the book the first time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I really appreciate you guys for sharing those books, and I think like it's important to read, isn't it? And that's something that I've been learning recently as well, just getting more into books. And I've been reading a book called The Third Door by Alex Banyan, and he basically interviewed these successful people, but he kind of noticed that there were like 3 doors. There's the one you go through, there's a side entrance, and then there's another way of getting around, situations basically. It's kind of sometimes who and it's pretty interesting. But no, I really appreciate you guys sharing that. And I just thought, like, to round up as well, like, where can people find you on social media and your website and your podcasts and everything like that?
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. Well, Actions Limits. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. You can see our interviews and episodes on YouTube and any podcast venue possible. For me personally, if you want to talk with me, the easiest way is on my website, a call to action.coach. I have my cell phone on there. So if you want to be old school and give me a call, we can talk. Otherwise, you can set up an appointment through my website or enjoy my content on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, everything.
Yeah, I'll add to that for the podcast. I normally do a little bit of the promo stuff, so I made Paul do it this time. He has a little switch up, but we have a segment on our show called Ask Paul Anything. So if you send your questions into actionsandlimits@gmail.com, you can get your questions featured on the show. So yeah, Actions and Limits, Facebook, Instagram, we're all on the different social media. For myself, my website is confidenceunchained.com. That's the best way to reach out to me, or on LinkedIn, Facebook under Justin Atherton or Confidence Unchained. So, and I'm excited, man. Thank you for having us on here, man. It's been great, chatting with you, Adam, again.
Yeah.
With the actions we take and the limits we create.
Yeah, that's it exactly. No, it's been a pleasure having you guys back on, and I'm really really grateful, to be your friend and to be able to do this. It really means a lot, from the bottom of my heart. Really really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Let's
you so
keep in
much for
touch.
having us.
Yeah, sure thing. You guys have a great year and I wish you all the best with the summit as well, Justin, and all that you're doing as well, Paul.
Thank you.
You're welcome.